Section 2.3, Rethinking Production versus Reproduction. To borrow from Clarkson's discussion of logos versus mythos, Promethean technical reproduction is set in opposition to imaginal production. Set against the backdrop of Rowland's discussion of the Gothic feminine, in opposition to the inflated logos of the Enlightenment, there is a resulting and very arbitrary ascription of a masculine logos offset by feminine mythos. Gothic Romanticist writer Mary Shelley called out the dangers of the Titanic nature through the figure of Prometheus. In Frankenstein, a modern Prometheus, she holds a distorted mirror up to patriarchy, one that highlights a failure of the patriarchal masculine to produce, either biologically or in the rich imaginal sense of mythos. From this vantage point, the distinctions between the first order protoi hierate of the mythical religious imagination and the logos sublated engineer model of modern manufacturing may be reduced to a sort of womb envy, a highly successful fabricated facsimile of modern Mother Nature's creative power. Limitations of production from the masculine psyche is mythically portrayed in the epic struggle Zeus experiences in the birthing of Dionysus from his thigh and Athena from his head. According to Carigny, depending on the account, it was either Prometheus or Hephaestus whose handiwork freed Athena from Zeus's head. From Dr. Frankenstein's lair to the fabrication of nature in labs and factories, man's incessant drive to co-opt the biological and psychic production of the feminine has negative consequences for both the human and divine realm. As Gier points out, quote, not only are the gods supplanted, but nature in general is denigrated in status and value. This becomes an especially serious problem when human beings develop technological means to control and to alter nature, unquote. Commenting on the dark side of Prometheus's workshop and technological titanism in general, Gier evokes the destruction of Gaia inherent in Prometheus's workshop. This is a quote. Smelting and mining are intimately connected leads, at least retrospectively in some minds, to protest a major violation of the sanctity and integrity of Mother Earth. Until the industrial age, smelting and mining were relatively small scale, so pre-industrial peoples could not have predicted the catastrophic implications of their powerful pyrotechnology, unquote. It is important to mention that this characterization picks up on one particular strand of the Prometheus legend, the Roman version upon which Percy Shelley crafted his own contribution, Prometheus Unbound. Rather than stealing fire, Shelley follows the Ovidian revision in which Prometheus is depicted as creating man through a particular innovation in ceramic technologies. Also in this strand, Prometheus' mother is Earth, obviously drawing on the more primordial Gaia side of the Gaia Themis mythologism, the complement to which has yet to be uncovered in our investigation. In this light, Gier's characterization is somewhat problematic. If Mother Nature is so meek, then why is the technological titan aspect of Prometheus so clearly positioned in competition with and in opposition to Mother Nature? Working this material or dimension further, the Great Mother archetype seems like a good place to continue this investigation. We might say that Prometheus, clearly a Peter Pan type locked in perennial combat with father figures, be they Titans or Olympians, leads back, as is the case with all puerityranny, to the mother. To this point, Claremont de Castillo comments, quote, on the whole, the menace to civilization today seems to come from man's overdeveloped thinking and the consequent unadaptedness of his, man's, fourth function, feeling, which thereby lets in the evil. His feeling brings with it all the dynamic forces of the unconscious, good and bad, its courage and inspiration, but also its terror, which makes us pile armament upon armament, hydrogen bomb upon hydrogen bomb, unquote. As the iconic 70s commercial reminds us, it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature. The shadow of this arguably titanic, quote, stultifying, life-destroying, anonymous machine of the civilization we have built, unquote, according to Claremont de Castillejo, is the resurgence of the savage feminine through the very fabrication or factory of modern masculinist monotheism that continues the motif of Prometheus's workshop. Part of Zeus's vengeance against the Titan involved the creation of the first human woman, Pandora, with the help of Hephaestus and Athena, who was betrothed to Prometheus, the Greek Eve, if you will. According to Harrison, Pandora's other name is Anasidora, the one who sends up gifts from the earth, perhaps plutonium as a modern empirically factual issue of the classic box we were warned not to open. Clearly, there is a powerful compensatory aspect to the dark feminine to counterbalance man's reckless drive to co-opt creation. Literally or metaphorically, he will be bound to the earth, a rock, eternally reminded of his vulnerable, visceral nature, picked out by a natural predator. This is exactly the sort of scenario enacted in the plot of Prometheus, whose hyper-masculine engineers are necessarily bound to an all-powerful dark feminine substance mediated by a queen that has as much power to devour and destroy as to create. In this way, man is reminded by the Great Mother where he stands in the great scheme of things, in education and ecologic. Section 3. Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound, reconnecting Prometheus and Themis. As we circle back around Prometheus and the feminine, we leave the movie theater and venture out into the Caucasus Valley. It's there that we uncover a deeper assessment of the Titan and a much richer and decidedly less monstrous feminine, though given her ghost-like position, we will need to read between the lines. It may come as a surprise to modern tech startups and Hollywood directors, but Prometheus is very rooted in the feminine. As depicted in Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound, he is our conduit to Gaia's other half. Section 3.1, Prometheus's feminine side. Prometheus, like Endymion, has a moon-like nature, and the moon obviously carries an aspect of the feminine, whether through his kinship with the moon Titaness Selene or the Olympian Hera. Hence, Carenier refers to Prometheus as, quote, a moon-like being, but not a luminous one, embodying the darkness of the dark moon, a wounder and a wounded one, unquote. And he shares this wounded wounder aspect with Hera and his Titan brethren, the darkest wound of pride. He also notes the potential significance of Prometheus's wound, his liver, for which the Greeks was the dark organ and the seat of passions. According to Carenier, quote, the darkness of Prometheus signifies precisely the deficiency of one who needs fire in order to achieve a more perfect form of being. In obtaining this higher form of being from man, Prometheus shows himself to be man's double, an eternal image of man's basically imperfect form of being, unquote. Gier proposes that Prometheus is our best hope of reconciling the rift between the animus, the masculine principle, and the anima, the feminine principle. Irritable and intolerant, the Prometheus immortalized in Prometheus Bound, is the classic Jungian portrayal of the male possessed by the dark depression of a wounded anima. So such a conjunctio might be considered a tall order. López-Pedraza would argue that this is not the deep, dark Dionysian depression capable of guiding the Titan to his anima nature. No, López-Pedraza argues, to the contrary, that his is a repetitive, dry, titanic depression. Chained to the rock, he resigns himself to having his liver perennially pecked out by Zeus's Aegis the eagle. There, Prometheus's arrogant, hubristic, and misanthropic nature is revealed in conversations with several anima figures. Several manifest themselves as actual characters in the play, and their efforts to assuage the Titan are rudely dismissed in short order. There is another, however, who does not make an actual appearance, but her presence pervades the skein, as we will see. In all, Prometheus Bound has the feel of an intervention by a caring community. In spite of the collective effort, the stubborn Titan proves to be immune to the healing power of the feminine. In the following section, we will revisit Aeschylus's classic work in light of what our investigation affirms, at this stage, as the shadow feminine, though so far we have only touched upon her Gaia nature. Section 3.2, Prometheus Bound. The first figure to appear in Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound is Hephaestus, who, as previously mentioned, shares a kinship with the Titan, and by some accounts is actually his brother. He certainly is his fellow craftsman, along with Athena, who helped Prometheus fashion man out of clay. As mentioned earlier, he and Prometheus had a hand in freeing the goddess from Zeus's head. In addition to sharing the connection with Athena, Hephaestus, like Prometheus, has a wounded nature. He is, within the Homeric tradition, a mama's boy of Hera and not of Zeus, who literally kicked the poor boy out of Olympus after noticing his deformed foot, by some accounts. We also know of his being regularly cuckolded by his wife, Aphrodite, who prefers the man's man, Ares. Hephaestus does not interact with Prometheus directly, but rather through Strength, who steals him for the task of shackling his Titan friend. Strength, or Kratos, the proverbial hard-ass coach, taunts, quote, "Still shrinking, weeping for the enemy of Zeus? Take care, or you may need your pity for yourself," unquote. Though a masculine god, Hephaestus carries the shadow of wounded masculinity. Next to appear is the chorus,